should pop up on your screen, and I don't have a clue what all you're going to see.
All right.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
That good morning cupcakes is getting
I bet that I bet that greeting got you a whole lot of chastisement, didn't it?
You know, the problem they got with that is that I'm getting more thumbs up on their site than the I'm going on to my Facebook page.
Okay, well, I'm still hearing Greg.
Ugh.
And I got Mike on the phone, and he's waiting for your site to go live. Mike, Ted says you need to hit a little button. I don't know where the little button is.
The little button on my Ted's screen?
Yeah, on Ted's screen.
Well, I'll, if it's not there, that's an issue.
Is it there, Mike?
I'm looking right now. Let's see. It says home, Georgia Law Library, Liberty Jam. I don't see a place to click a button.
Is that a problem, Ted?
It is at the moment.
Okay, Mike.
No problem, Ted. It says 31 seconds.
Well, maybe it's going to start automatically. If it doesn't start automatically, maybe it's going to start automatically. It doesn't start automatically. Okay, Mike, Ted said he's got to fix something before that button will show up.
Okay, well, I'm just sitting here staring at the screen. I've got nothing better to do with my time than this.
Well, we're not going to get started officially till 6, so we got a few minutes to work it out. Now, I've got a link here to the Greg's Facebook page, which you
mail me that link if you will.
I'm on
get on that way if I need to.
Well, let's see if I can send this. I'll just hold on. We'll get it, because I don't know how to send. I don't know how. Uh-oh.
But if you refresh the page.
See if you can refresh your page, Mike.
All right, I just did, and yes, there it came up.
Okay.
The accuracy of the tabulator is actually the easiest thing in the world to do. And I've got a video that's now playing. Paper ballots, the voter verified paper ballots.
He's got a video playing, Ted.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, talking about machines and paper ballots, I just froze it. Is always the official part of the election. Those are the official results.
That's not where he wants to be, is it, Ted? No, that ain't where you're supposed to be, Mike.
Okay, well, I did the refresh, and that's what came up. My page to reload.
Do what, Ted?
My page. I'm waiting for my page to fix.
Okay. Hold on a minute, Mike.
All right. I just updated the link.
Yes, it is.
Life is like that.
Yes, it is.
I had my eyes dilated yesterday for an eye exam, and I couldn't see all afternoon.
Bless your heart.
I mean, can't read the screens, can't read a book, just sit there and stare at a dark wall.
Yeah.
All right. Technically, where are we at?
Well,
I'm trying to get the live stream going on my website. For some reason, it just failed.
Ted's live stream just failed, he said.
But I'm about to fix it again here. And then today we were 3 hours in Becky's doctor's office. She's getting ready for another cataract surgery.
Bless her heart.
I mean, this has been a bad health year for both of us.
Yeah.
So we're going to get that under eye fixed. So that'll be both of them.
Mike, can you can you write something down?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right. Write down www.facebook.com and a /
Okay.
profile dot
Okay.
PHP Papa Hotel Papa ?
Oh, PHP?
Yes.
Question mark?
ID equal
Yes.
1 followed by 3 zeros. 804 71 19084. That'll be an alternative site to go to.
All right.
What is it?
Facebook.com/profile .php ? ID equals and that long number.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
And that's all lowercase.
Got it. Thank you. I'm going to do that. Add that right now.
Okay. See if that's any better for you. I don't know because I can't see it. How's it going, Ted?
Oh, it is moving forward a bit.
Okay.
Okay, that should do it. Now everyone refresh their Liberty Jam page. Here we are. Okay, it's up on Liberty Jam.
Okay, good.
So it's all you guys.
I'm checking Liberty Jam real quick.
Boy, it must be nice to have all that computer stuff.
I've got it. I've got the presentation on Liberty Jam.
Okay,
All right.
good.
I've got it. I've got the presentation. And I just also got into, it looks like I got into the Facebook.
Oh, you lucky rascal.
Yeah, the Facebook's running fine. I got it on. And because we've got comments coming in on Facebook, is from those people. So I'll be any questions that people have, we'll have there.
Well, I don't see any information other. Now that you've been drinking more water and spending more time. We'll remind you that we are live and ready to go.
Okay, Greg. Now, Greg, you take over the intro and everything up to the contract, and I'll explain that.
Well, I'm just going to get it going. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, with us. I'm trying to figure out how many are on, but we are here tonight because a couple weeks ago I was talking with Paul, and I'll give you a little background on this. I'm getting feedback from somebody.
Yeah, Michael Lopez.
Okay, I just ended that one, and I'm cutting off you.
So our moderators, but Paul was talking about getting himself in trouble on the day of the election and had this idea. And I said, well, you can't have all the fun by yourself. So I was going to join him. And then in the middle of the conversation, I had the idea of a way that we could open up his idea to the citizenry, to all of you that are interested in being activists about ballot integrity. And so we started churning on what we could do with this idea. And as it moved forward, instead of just putting this out there for people for an idea, I said, we've got to turn this into a structure where they can do it, where we can alleviate as much of the potential struggles that they will have using all the knowledge that we've gained in the last few years in fighting on this, and with some of the recent legal decisions that have come in our favor. And with that, we developed this strategy to how to challenge it. The documents are now going up, have already gone up on libertyjam.org. And I have a Dropbox where they're available also, and they will go up on this web page, this Facebook page that we're running. And there are a few other people. Part of the issue about not being able to do this directly from the StreamYard is we were limited on how many of these connections we could do. So we've made this as broad as we could. So there are other people streaming this that we know. And we want to thank all of them for their participation. But the idea that Paul had is to go in and he was going to take his ballot and walk out, but you don't have to do that. You just have to take a picture of it. And he was going to take this and there's always a judge on duty. And then, and we turned this into, there is a complaint that is available that all you have to do is download and only fill in a few of the form fields. And it's written so that you can do this as well. And at this point, I think I'm just going to turn this over to my partner in crime, Paul Nally, and our co-conspirator here. But we tried to turn this into something where it gets the public involved. There's so much of what a lot of us do in fighting these issues where there's 5 or 6 of it in it. And, we appreciate all the support we've had from people over the years. But this was a way to make a show of force across the state politically and to the judicial system, and especially to those in the election part of our governing our elections in this state, and let them know how serious all of us are about protecting ballot integrity. And so hopefully we will have hundreds of people doing this, if not thousands, filing this basically it's a complaint, but it's a prayer to the court. And Paul, with that, I'll let you get going.
Thank you, Greg. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you. For those of you who wonder how this came about, it all started with Justice Totenberg's decision a couple of years back, in which she made the comment that the Dominion system did not comply or do anything that was required of 2 Georgia statutes. Like most everybody else, I have a bad habit of complying with the law in most cases. And it looks like I'm fixing to go out. Am I blinking?
You're fine.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just ignore that. But at any rate, there's a code section in our statutes that provides that there's a presumption of propriety as to the official acts of all public officers. So, needless to say, questioning the original contract from back in 2019 with Dominion, I just assumed for too long that there wasn't anything wrong with the contract. But after reading Justice Totenberg's opinion, I couldn't help but wonder on occasion, but not to the point that it would interfere with other research, until one day some good-natured troublemaker like us got a hold of a copy of the contract and sent it to me. Well, of course, I'm sitting here, nothing to do. And so I decided, well, I guess I'll read it. And everything was going pretty good, considering the requirements of Title 13 on contracts. Everything looked like it was in compliance. And then I got down to the exhibits. Specifically, when I got to Exhibit B, 3.1, when I read that section, it was as if somebody had just hauled off and smacked me between the eyes with a 2-by-4, which, by the way, that's the way you usually start training mules. Once you've got their attention, everything goes fine after that. At any rate, it occurred to me that provision contracted the state of Georgia to do something the legislature had not intended. And that was put a QR code, or in the terms of the contract, a 2-dimensional barcode on the face of the ballot. Well, I jump over to the state code and I start looking and I look some more, and then I look some more after that. I cannot find an authorization from the state legislature that the form of the ballot printed out will contain a QR code. As a matter of fact, what you do find is 21-2-300, and that says specifically that the ballot generated from the BMD will be readable. There are other code sections involved which include not just readable, but verifiable. So then I got to thinking, well, why in the Sam Hill hasn't somebody voided, gone to the courts? Everybody and his brother has gone to the courts. I wonder why nobody has ever raised the question to a judge, is this contract valid? Or is it voidable? Or at least, is this requirement for the 2D barcode voidable? And if it's voidable, what are the ramifications? At any rate, I got busy doing research on that, and it appears that the question of a void contract or a void provision in the contract has not been raised in any of the court cases to date. Well, that needs to change. And the reason it needs to change is because if the contract between Dominion and the state is void or voidable for containing a provision contrary to law, then that, as far as I'm concerned, invalidates the whole contract. It makes the whole thing a contract to perform an illegal service. Now, unfortunately, I don't have sufficient evidence to make that claim stick in a court of law. I got some, but not enough. So the next question was, well, what can we do? And in reading the code sections in Title 21, another code section just jumped out and smacked me like a 2-by-4. And that was that there would be a judge in every circuit. We got 49 circuits in this state. And that there would be a judge on election day sitting in his office from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night or later if necessary. And it occurred to me, wait just a minute. That means that if I get up early enough, get to the polls early enough, and do my thing at the polling place, then I will know for a fact whether or not this election, in-person voting, is being done by putting an illegal mark on my ballot. If that's the case, then I will have grounds, legal grounds, to challenge that contract in its entirety, or at least that provision in a court of law. Now, what would be the ramifications of that? Well, of course, if the entire contract could be ruled void, then there goes Dominion reimbursing money to the state of Georgia, to the counties that they would be entitled to. And that would be the end of Dominion, period. If the provision, the Exhibit B 3.1, paragraph 3.1, is voidable and voided by a judge, then that means that we could still use the ballot marking device for the purpose of making our selections and printing it out and then verifying that everything that is printed on that paper in the English language is, one, readable, and two, verifiable. But what it means also is that because that QR code is illegal, now it cannot be used in the equipment that will compile and tabulate all of these ballots, which means a judge could not authorize that type of counting, because there's no way, especially if he has already ruled that the 2D barcode is illegal and creates an illegal ballot with a mark on it that is not permitted by state law, then he can take some other action, and that would be to allow in-person voters to continue to use the ballot marking device for the purposes of generating a ballot showing their individual selections, which they can verify, and then put it into a bin to be later hand counted. So a judge would have the authority to authorize statewide every ballot cast in that election, or in this election, to be counted by hand. Now, I'll grant you that's going to upset quite a few folks, Secretary of State being one of them. But those of you that know me know that I'm about the most insensitive SOB, which, by the way, that stands for sweet old boy, on the face of the planet. So, quite frankly, I don't really care at this point about Raffensperger's feelings, nor Germany's or anybody else's. So what I decided to do was to draw up the simplest pleading that I could. And when Greg got the idea implanted that we need to make this where everybody can participate and cover up 49 judges with petitions on election day, then, of course, that made a grin appear on this old mule Skinner's face, and I got busy. And the result of that is a document which you can download There's, I think there's 4 or 5 spaces where you can type in, before you download it, you can type in the county of your jurisdiction, you can type in your name, and then you can print it off and sign your name. Now, the way this works goes like this. You go into the polls and get your card, walk over to the BMD and make your selections. Then you hit print. And once it is printed out, first thing you want to do is verify that every selection you made appears on that ballot. It is possible, I have heard rumors, that there have been occasions where some selections were not in fact printed. So that being the case, I must urge you to pay close attention to every race you voted in and every person you selected, and be sure that everything matches. Once you've done that, if you want to proceed with a petition over to the judge, the circuit judge, then you need to make a picture of your ballot. Now, the reason you're going to do that is so you will have evidence of the highest and best available to you. Now, the photograph of your ballot is not the highest and best evidence. The highest and best evidence to lay before a judge would be the actual ballot. There's a problem, though, if you try to take your ballot and go out the door with it. And that is that there is a statute in Title 21 which makes being in possession of a ballot a felony if it's outside the polling place. Now, I'm not asking anybody to take their ballot. I am asking you to take a picture, because you can show the judge your picture when you submit your petition. And you can tell him this petition is accompanied by a picture in my cell phone of my ballot that I just cast a little bit ago. So anyway, once you have informed him that you have the picture, at that point, the judge may have some questions for you. And any question he asks that pertains to the election, you can answer truthfully. If he asks you a question that has nothing to do with your ballot and the process through which you went to get that ballot, to get that photograph, is irrelevant, and you need to say, Judge, I'm sorry, I object to that question. But most likely, under this set of circumstances, the judge is not going to go afield and go fishing. So most all of the questions that he'll ask will be on point, material to the issue before him. Now, the nice thing about the way I drew up this petition, I realized that not everybody was experienced or even capable. Some folks aren't capable of arguing a case to a judge. So what I tried to do was to build into the 4 pages of that petition sufficient case law precedent and evidentiary material so that I wouldn't have to get up there and argue the case. And in the very last paragraph, I make that plain because I asked the judge whatever judge is hearing your complaint, to make his decision based upon the arguments in the petition that he's reading. That will be subparagraph F. There it is right there on the screen. Now, of course, that doesn't mean the judge won't ask you questions. He probably will. But when it comes to looking at the facts and the law, everything else that you need to plead should be contained prior to subparagraph F under Division 5 prayers. So anyway, now I'm going to have to back up right here and start with the question of photography. Now, yes, there are provisions in the Georgia Code, Title 21, about taking pictures. But there's also one provision where it says that the poll manager can make an exemption to that. And let's see, there we go. I think photo of your ballot. Yeah. Now, these are a couple of several little statutes that you will need to make reference to. You might want to commit them to your memory over the weekend. Not that you're going to remember the code section or you're going to remember the exact verbiage, but you'll know in your mind, you will know, wait a minute, I've got that answered right here on this piece of paper. And you'll notice this case down here that I referenced. Picture of your ballot, see federal injunction, Coalition for Good Government v. Kemp. That's a decision where a federal judge enjoined the state of Georgia and any of its agents. I don't care whether they're law enforcement or if they're poll managers, whatever they are. They cannot touch you. Excuse me. They can always reach out and touch you. But they're not supposed to arrest you or charge you with any crime when you are photographing your own ballot. And that injunction, that federal injunction in that case, is still, I understand, is still an active injunction. So you're protected right there. Not only are you protected there, but you have your 14th Amendment immunity from the state of Georgia enforcing any law, which would deny you or abridge your privileges and immunities as a citizen of the United States. And of course, your right to vote is protected. Not only is it protected in the federal Constitution, you're protected under the Georgia Constitution, but you're additionally protected with constitutional immunity. And that's important because if for any reason you are arrested and a case is made against you, the very first document you file is a motion to dismiss for immunity because you have absolute immunity under the 14th Amendment as relating to your privileges and immunities granted otherwise in the preceding part of the U.S. Constitution. Now that takes care of and just in case the judge asks you, well, how did you manage to get a photograph? You just look at him and smile and say, well, Judge, I got 14th Amendment immunity. You might be surprised. He may not know what you're talking about. But anyway, now, to get down to the taking of a ballot out of a polling location, now that I will do. I do not encourage anybody else to do that. And the reason for it is because there is a very broadly languaged law in Title 21. As a matter of fact, it's cited right there in 21-2-574. Now, what I know and what I can argue to any court is that statement in 574, that statement is constitutionally overbroad. And the reason it is overbroad is because that piece of paper that was being used by that ballot marking device, when it was inside the ballot marking device, was the property of your county government until it was printed on and spit out in front of you. At that point, and if you will read the Official Code of Georgia 16-1-3, subparagraph 13, you will read a definition in the criminal code of property as being anything of value, tangible or intangible. Well, that includes that ballot that BMD just spit out for you. That's your property. And from the time you pick it up until the time you reach the tabulating machine, that is your property. Once you turn it over to that machine to be compiled, then it ceases to be your property. But if you don't turn it over to that piece of machine and you walk out the door, that's your property. And the state of Georgia does not have constitutional authority to prosecute you. First off, that would be a violation of your right not to be prosecuted. And by the way, that's one of those unwritten rights, but it's yours. It's there. And you have that right not to be prosecuted when you have not committed a criminal act. And to make you a criminal just because you're outside the polling location with your ballot in your hand is not a crime. It cannot be made a crime. I'm sorry. It should not have been made a crime. This statute does make it a crime, and this statute is voidable as it is written. It's got to be. The legislature in the next term is going to have to rephrase that statute if they want to keep it. But anyway, that's something I can do. I possess the skills to do. The average citizen, however, doesn't have those skills. So that's why I'm saying that you're better served just taking a picture. And if anybody jumps on you about taking a picture of your ballot, you look them dead in the face and ask them, do they want to go to jail for obstructing justice? And the reason for that is you are creating a piece of evidence for a pending litigation process over in your circuit court, or whichever county court that circuit's going to sit in on that day. So you'll find out here just a little bit later. There's a section in from 521-2-500 to 600 and something. There's a whole list of criminal activities that's listed there. And believe it or not, several of them apply to poll officers and poll workers. So don't think for a minute that these people are going to stand there and spout off to you some garbage that they were taught that was totally wrong and scare you into thinking that they have some power to put you in jail. Well, actually, if they tell lies, they can do that. That's happened over in Cherokee County and in Pickens County, by the way. But those cases are being fought, and I'm sure they're going to be successful in their defenses. But that is basically what you can do if you're so a mind to. Now, Greg and I both realize that if you've got 49 judges in this state and you've got 50, 100, 500, maybe 1,000 ticked off citizens who've had enough of being forced into using illegal ballots, which they can't verify, then those judges, some of them are going to see enough of their neighbors come in that door on election morning, and they're going to figure out real quick, well, I got to do something, because I can't possibly lie to all of these people all of the time and expect to get away with it. So this is a procedure that you can use if you're so a mind to. You just download the petition. It will have attached to it exhibits, thanks to Greg. And then also, when you present that, then the judge will have something to start with. Now, let me talk about the exhibit for just a minute. The exhibit is excerpts from the pages of the contract. Now, the only provision in that contract that is material to this petition is Exhibit B, paragraph 3.1. That, along with House Bill 316. Now, you don't need to download, I mean, you can, but you can go find House Bill 316, download it, and put it on your phone or put it on a thumb drive so the judge can access it. But I would suggest that the 8 pages in this Superior Court pleading will be the only thing you'll need to print out, other than the previous document that had the code sections on it with the citations to the coalition case and the other case law and the other defenses that you would have. But that will be the only pages you'll need to print out. Everything else that Greg has stored in on these 2 websites can be downloaded into a thumb drive, or you can download them to your cell phone if you're really skilled at using cell phones. I'm not, but I noticed some of the folks out here, their thumbs fly like a blur over keypads, and they know all the right buttons to push. Me, I'm still I'm still back in the dark ages when it comes to cell phones. But at any rate, you need to have those documents with you in some form so that if the judge should ask, you can produce them. Now, I think that pretty well sums up the overview on this. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Next question is when you leave the polling place and you get over to the courthouse, what do you do? Well, if you already know who the judge is that is fulfilling this Section 412 judicial role, then you go straight to his office, or you go to a courtroom where he may be sitting. And just as soon as you get there, you present him with your petition, with its exhibits. Now, what should happen is he should have a clerk on call or immediately available to stamp that pleading into the court and give it a case number. If he's in court, there will probably already be a clerk there who can take care of that function. The point being this: you don't have to stop at the clerk's desk and submit your petition for a filing and pay a fee. There is no fee authorized under this code section, and I would strongly urge everybody to be sure and make a point. If any clerk or any officer of the court, any officer in that courthouse says, oh, well, you got to pay a filing fee, just look at them and say, show me in 21-2 21-412, where my presenting this election-oriented petition to the judge requires the filing of a fee with the clerk of the court. Well, they can't. It doesn't permit it. It doesn't allow it for that one day, for that one issue. Well, of course, somebody in authority like a judge may look at you and say, well, yeah, you got to file a fee. Well, you can go file it at the clerk's desk and pay a filing fee if you want to. But I think I would jump up and down and demand that the judge pick up the phone, call down to the Supreme Court of the state of Georgia, and ask those judges to make a quick decision. Does this require a filing fee? And of course, all they're going to do is go look at it, read it, and then they're going to call the judge back and say, Judge, I hate to tell you this, but 412 doesn't permit a filing fee. Okay, now what's he going to do? So, this is some of the stuff you can think about when have some experience with practice and proceedings in your courts. But hopefully, and it would be a real tickle for everybody in the state of Georgia, if out of 49 judges, we could find just one judge to look at that pleading and say, well, yeah, you're right. That provision is void. So we're going to have to enjoin the use of the tabulation machines. We can let the ballot marking device go ahead and print out your selections, but then we're going to also have to order that these ballots be hand counted. Now, of course, there is another possibility, and the reason for this possibility is because there are three ways of voting under the law in the state of Georgia. The legislature made that plain in 21-2-300 when they talked about in subparagraph A2, when they talk about the consistency throughout the state of using the electronic voting system. And they go through and they tell all this stuff in subparagraph A1, then they get down to A2 and they continue on. But then they get down to about the middle of A2 and they say, unless otherwise authorized by state law. Well, you ask yourself the question, are there other methods of voting? Well, actually, yes, there are. There's two others. You've got optical scanning, which means you darken out some bubbles next to some names and scan it through. And that takes care of your selection and it takes care of the counting. So there's an optical voting device. Then you've got the Dominion machine, which is the one the Raffensperger wants everybody to use. And then you've got a third one. And that third one is marking ballots and hand counting ballots. Paper ballots is the way it's listed in the code section. And I apologize, I can't remember 21-2, and I can't remember what Article 9, but I can't remember what part that is. But anyway, you can go look it up if you want to. I know every one of you just dying to do nothing but read state law. But at any rate, there are three ways to handle voting in the state of Georgia. And believe me, the Dominion system is not the only one. Not only is there that provision made in 21-2-300 A2, but there's another provision in 21-2-334, which plainly states that if the use of this electronic balloting system of Dominions is impractical for any reason, and this is where I have a problem with your boards of elections, is because they are ignoring it. They are ignoring that provision, and they're ignoring the fact that that ballot marking device is not supposed to, that QR code is not supposed to be on the face of your ballot. So I got a real problem with your with the integrity of your boards of elections. But 334 makes it plain that the election superintendent, which can be a judge, probate judge, it could be a board of elections, it could be a board of elections and registrations, or it could be one individual hired by the county to be that. But whoever, it doesn't matter. They have the authority in law to tell Raffensperger to take a hike because the Dominion system ain't fit to use. And that's all they got to say. And then they go to paper ballots. That's the law. I don't care what Raffensperger and his gang of minion lawyers tell you. They're lying to you if they tell you anything else. So anyway, Greg's idea about making this thing a public display, a public revolution, so to speak, where 100 or maybe 500 or maybe 5,000 citizens show up at these 49 judges' doors, shaking that petition at them, saying, I'm going to file mine, and you're going to answer it, Judge. So that's what this is all about. This is a legal, you could say this is a form of legal revolution. Instead of carrying a musket and a powder horn and a bag of balls, no, you're carrying a really big stick, the law. And hopefully we'll have more than one judge on election morning make a decision so that by the end of voting on election night, every ballot in this state will have to be hand counted. And with that, I think I'll shut up and ask questions, or answer. Greg and I'll answer some questions if you folks have any. I can't hear you, Greg. Am I? Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me, Greg? Okay, I can't hear you. Lord have mercy, you mean somebody finally shut Greg Howard up? Yeah. Does anybody know sign language? Lord have mercy. I can't read. Greg, is my audio still on? Oh, wait a minute. I don't see a live ribbon up in the top of your screen. Maybe you're not live for some reason. I don't know. Do we need to make a call to Liberty Jam? Greg, I can't hear you. All docs are downloadable at Liberty. Oh yeah, one other thing, folks, while we're trying to work through this technical snafu. If any of you have any questions, if there's several of you in one geographic location, if you'll let me know, I'll meet you on.
Am I back now?
Yeah, there you are. Okay, let me hush.
No, keep going. You got to remind me now what I'm supposed to talk about. Oh, well,
jog that memory. Yeah. Well, anyway, folks, if you have any questions, and several of you happen to be in a geographic location, or you're having a meeting the rest of this week or the weekend, if you get in touch with me, I'll try to join you on a conference call similar to this, and I'll try to answer any of your questions you can. And I apologize, but my old eyes plus these glasses aren't helping, because it's hard as heck to read over here in this comment section.
Now, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I'm going to put a posting up on. I apologize to the Facebook crowd trying to lead. I was trying to run both two different browsers at once, and that's what was causing all the problems with the microphone and the video. So I had to cut one off. So I cannot monitor Facebook. We are going to, but you can send your questions to us through that. You can email them. I'm going to be posting up to the address to the Dropbox, where they can get all of the forms and the contract from Dominion, the case law that we've based on. So all that's available to you to look at if you want, or just to hold on to and use. The complaint, the instructions, and everything will be there. LibertyJam.org will also have all of it. There's power in numbers. If you're tentative about doing this, get a few of your friends that feel the same way to go with you, and do this. And they're not going to turn you down if there's 4 or 5 of you standing there trying to do this. The goal is to get as many people out there. Please feel free to pass this along. We're going to post this video on as many sites as we can as well. This is, I really want to see this be successful. I appreciate everybody who's logged on, and we've held everything this tightly to this point so that there's as little chance of response against us and against you that there's very little time for them to come up with this, other than lying to you about your the jeopardy they could try to place on you. But this is a way to get as many citizens involved in this movement as we can. So a lot of people have told me they weren't going to go vote until they heard about this. And so we've kept it all pretty close, but we had to talk to a few people, and they were all incredibly excited. So, and Paul, said a couple times, my brain, every now and then when I come up with these things, he goes, they're a pain in his rear, because I had to really put it on him I said, you're the only person who could help write this and get this done in time. And so, I really want to thank Paul for doing this, because I really think this is our citizen. This could be our citizen moment if hundreds of people show up doing this. I really want to see this put the fear of how important this issue is to the citizens of Georgia.
Amen. May I interrupt for just a second?
You can have the floor now.
Just for a second. I'm finally able to read some of this real small print over here. And there's a comment about Cherokee County requiring electronic filing of cases. Well, Yeah, that's fine in normal circumstances, but you got to understand 21-2-412 is a very specific jurisdictional grant by the legislature. And that is that judge is not going to, he's not going to hear murder cases, and he's not going to hear bank robbery cases. He's going to hear nothing but election cases. Now, if election cases fall off and there's a real short case coming up on a domestic violence or something like that, he might can hear that. But he can't do anything, allow anything to interfere with hearing election matters. He's got to hear. He ain't got any choice. Now, what about the clerk and electronic filing of your case? If he wants it electronically filed, he will tell the clerk what he wants. The clerk don't tell you. You ain't even going to see the clerk. You're going straight to the judge's chambers or to his court, wherever he happens to be. So keep in mind, there's two things there. One, you don't file with the clerk, and you don't pay a filing fee.
I want to throw something in. We've got a question from Site Steal Your Data. It says Cherokee requires electronic filing of cases.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. You don't have to electronically file it. If the judge wants it electronically filed, he will so order the clerk.
Okay. Also, people remember, take an extra copy or two with you, and when they stamp one received, get one for yourself.
That's that darn good idea there, young man. Thank you.
Been hanging around.
You do have your moments.
I've been running with you too long, Paul. Because it's important that you have proof of that you did this later on.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, if the judge tells her to go make a copy, you be sure that you add to his comment. Yeah, make 2 copies. Bring me one. There's a question. Do I think a defendant needs to be named? No. This, keep in mind, this is an ex parte hearing on election matters. So whoever shows up with a complaint, that's who's going to be heard, even if the complaint is about a poll worker. Now, if the judge, let's just say you don't have a video, and if the judge wants to hear from the poll worker who messed up, he can certainly send a bailiff out to get her, or send a deputy over to get her, or him, and bring them into the courthouse. But this has to do with election material questions about the election, and it is a properly an ex parte proceeding. As a matter of fact, that's why it's styled in re, is because there is not a individual person other than Raffensperger, of course, that's mentioned in the pleading and the Secretary of State's office. But the whole issue revolves around the contract, number 1, in its entirety, or number 2, relating to its illegal provision under Exhibit B, subparagraph 3.1. And I'll yield. And I'll see if I can read some more of this.
One says, so much info. Can any election case be filed that day?
Yes, absolutely. That's why the judges are there. Anything, any complaint about any portion of an election is to be heard that day. That's not the only day they can be heard, but it is to be heard that day by a very specific judicial officer, and that is a judge in your circuit. Now, if you've got if like Cobb County's in a circuit by itself. So you know where the courthouse is. You got no problem. Bartow County, however, is in the Cherokee Judicial Circuit, and the judge could be sitting in Cartersville, or he could be in Calhoun. So you've got to find out what county courtroom the judge is going to be sitting in for that circuit. And by the way, if you need to know what circuit you're in and the counties that belong in your judicial circuit, you can make a note. I hope all of y'all brought sharp pencils and plenty of paper. But if you'll go to the Georgia Code and turn over to 15-6-3, and if you do that on a computer, you can Control F and it will bring up a find box, and you can type in your county name and it will take you right straight to your county name, which, by the way, will be listed under your judicial circuit along with every other county that's in that circuit. So that's how you find those things out. And let me see what.
I'll help you with that one. There's one that says, if a judge does not grant any such request, do you think it lays the groundwork for an appeal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's an appealable decision. Now, what I don't know is, hold on a minute. I got to think about practice and procedure here. Good God, and I'll probably be wrong on this one. You can, if he rules against you, if he rules against you, yes, you would have probably grounds for appeal. The question is he going to make the same ruling? Let's just say there's 50 of you in the county that decide you want to do this, and all of you print up one of these petitions, and all of you flock, go down to the polls, cast your vote, wait on one another outside till everybody's through. Then everybody go over to the courthouse to see your judge, and he rules against all of you. What he'll do is he will combine all of those cases into one hearing, which he can do. That's perfectly legitimate, because after all, it's all one issue. And so if he rules against you, then yes, the decision could be appealable. Not that it would be. Now, you got to keep in mind, there's a few things in life I know. And one of them is that there's a hell of a lot I don't know. So I can't tell you how a judge is going to rule in a case like this. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Greg. There's all your circuits. But I know keep in mind too, whether you file an appeal or not is something you'll have to decide on, probably with the help of an attorney, to look at the issue and to look at the judge's decision and see if he ruled according to law. Now, the one interesting thing about appeal, the Georgia Code does provide two avenues for appeals. One's through the Court of Appeals and the other's through the Supreme Court. And sometimes you can go Court of Appeals and then the Supreme Court. But people have been overlooking one of the courts of appeal that is never, ever mentioned, and that's the grand jury. Folks, y'all got to keep in mind your Constitution is plain as day. It cannot get any plainer that your juries are judges of the law. Read your Constitution. Don't take my word for it. Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 11. Not only that, but the very last sentence says that the legislature can't make any laws concerning the grand juries other than their selection and their compensation. The legislature can't tell a grand jury what to do. Neither can a judge. A judge of an Article 6 court under our Constitution. Okay, let's see. Well, I'm gonna have to get me some glasses. That's all there is to it.
Your camera's fuzzy too.
Yeah, I got to do something about that. But after all, you got to understand, I am using She Who Must Be Obeyed's computer. I will say hers holds up better than mine does.
You're in focus. The rest of the shot is not. So.
Oh, well, the background, yeah, I got it blurred.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the little tricks with this.
All right.
With this browser site, they'll let you blur the background. That way, y'all don't get to see the sewing machine and the ironing board and get the wrong impression about me.
You get to see the mess on my desk in my office, all the computers. But, well,
anybody else got new?
I haven't seen any, and
hey, we got a lawyer here. Woo!
Well, what we can do is also I'll go back to the Facebook and try to download those, and we'll post up the questions here later tonight, tomorrow. Okay. I'm going to post up, and it'll be on Liberty Jam, and I'm also going to put where the source Dropbox is, so everybody can go to that. And it's got the instructions, everything else Paul's talked about, the complaint, and the big part is completely fill out the complaint. Below your name, it also has spots for your address, and you need to fill that in, phone number and address for the courts.
Yep.
You've got to do all this, but it's easy. All the form fields are there. It's only 5 or 6. There's only 5 or 6 fields to fill in the whole document. All the exhibits are there. It's like you say, where you see the yellow, click on it and put in your county. There's no case number, but we're following a format here. And then at the end, it'll automatically populate the other county when you go through it. When you fill in one of them, it does the other, and that's it. Put the date, the 8th. Also, Paul, I want you to answer this. We had a couple people that asked me, because they're actually poll workers and they're going to be working that day. So they want to know if if they take a picture of their ballot, if they can file this the next day.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if they file it the next day, yeah. There may be a filing fee.
Right.
I'll tell you what they could do, though. They could. Did I mention a while ago talking about that pleading that down at the bottom, you ask the judge to make his decision based on the pleadings and not so much have to worry about question and answer sessions? Yeah, number F. Now, what they could do is they could go file this pleading during lunch with the judge. I mean, not file it, but submit it to the judge. And by the way, you're not filing. This is the one time you're not filing a pleading. You are submitting it to a judge. If he wants it filed, he'll tell the clerk what he wants done. Okay. So they could run over during lunch and submit this to the judge and then, tell him we got to be excused, but we'd appreciate it if you would rule on the pleadings and we need to be excused to get back over to the courtroom. So that way they could get theirs submitted to the judge, might even get a file stamp on it.
Okay. Got another question. What about a declaratory judgment of injunctive relief?
If I'm not mistaken, the injunction was mentioned in the prayers.
Okay.
In asking the court to enjoin the use of the scanning. Let's see, back up to D. That this court find that this court. There E. That this court that this court in order that there not be another void election through the use of illegal equipment and ballots, order by injunction that the BMDs now in use can continue, but that the scanning and tabulations not be used. In other words, everything be hand counted.
All right. I've got one more in our plan here is that on libertyjam.org, we're working on putting up a page so everybody can post that they've done this. If you want to put, so that people can see the list of people who've done this across the state. So you'll go back to Liberty Jam and say, hey, I did it, thumbs up. And
we would like to see a tally just to see if there's enough people left in this state to warrant continued freedom.
I think that'll be fun to see.
Lot couldn't find 10 virtuous men, so I'm a little bit concerned about the state of Georgia. I hope to be pleasantly surprised after this.
Anything else, Paul?
Can't think of anything unless somebody wants to volunteer a winning lottery number, and we would sure appreciate that.
I got Liberty Jam says, we'll send you, Liberty Jam, our moderator says, and if you sign up, we'll send you a virtual participation trophy.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. I like that idea.
I think enforcing our freedom is trophy enough for me, but it'll be fun to see how many people wear and from all over the state.
Yes. Amen to that. Amen to that.
Well, anything else you can think of?
No, I can't right off the top of my head, but if anybody's got any questions, email me.
Send it to on Georgia Straight Talk. You can post it to my Facebook page, or you can email me, and we'll start posting the answers. So
there you go.
Paul doesn't have to answer the same question 40, 50 times. So we'll have places, and I'm sure we'll have some place on Liberty Jam where we can post these as well, the answers as well.
Okay. Well, I do thank you. And I guess we can, what time is it anyway? I haven't even bothered to keep up
15.
with it. Oh, good Lord. Okay. I've talked too much. I can see that right now.
Well, talking about me,
yeah, right.
Get you going on some of these topics. But everybody, thank you, and look forward to seeing the results.
Yep. Thank y'all. Appreciate you showing up. Bye-bye and good night.
Good night.
Now, how do I get off here? I close this. Okay.